friends, and welcome to the third installment of What is Google Suite? I think we're going to have a pretty sweet time, if you know what I mean. Those of you that have been joining us over the past few months know that we love all of the emojis, we love all of the chitty chats, and so if you could hop into the chat, give us a shout out. Maybe if you've tried a new recipe or something like that, let us know. We could even maybe share it in a Google Doc. How about that? So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping reminders, a couple of ways you can interact with us. First off, the chat. Rochelle is amazing at interacting with us, and so she'll be using that space, desperately waiting for your answers when she asks you a question, and we'll also give you the time to write it out. Now, as learners, Rochelle and I know the struggle that can happen when we're doing online learning and being able to have that interaction. So we get to see things from both sides. Now, I know personally what has happened for me is I'm going in, the facilitator has asked an amazing question. I'm super chatty and knowledgeable, so I'm gonna get right in there and start typing away, and then they've moved on. Well, we don't mind if you are still chatting away, just send it anyway. We want to hear from you. Yes. Now, I do my best, right? Wabiska Beads on Instagram. It's my cousin's bestie. She makes amazing earrings. So just located above here, you'll see a couple of the emoji section. We'll give a clap to Rochelle, and we'll also use that space for questions, other kind of private questions. You can go in there, or also in the chat, you have the option to send us messages privately too if you want to keep things more confidential. We're always up for that. Now, you guys have been with Rochelle for a little while, a couple of weeks, right? And some of us even longer as we've gotten to be a part of her webinar series and the tidbits. And you may not know this about Rochelle, but she is a super duper person, yes, but she's also heavy into learning herself. And so one thing we know about Rochelle is that she has been engaged in educational settings for over 20 years. She was 3 years old when she started, spanning early years and all the way through university. And we're so lucky to have Rochelle as an essential skills instructor. She brings to her not just the warmth, and inclusivity in her workshops, but also flexibility, kindness, empowerment. We could go on forever. I probably could at least a half hour without taking a breath, but that's not why you're here. You are here for her amazing tidbits and knowledge and her vast array of talents. So I will shut it and give Rochelle an opportunity to hop on here and get us rolling with Google Suite session 3.
Good morning, everyone. I noticed in the chat we have a little bit of sound issues going on for some of you. So fear not, Carrie is with you, and she's going to work in the background with you, Lucy, to see if we can figure out if there's any sound issues. Now, I can't tell if there's sound issues other than that if I don't know. So how about shooting me a thumbs up emoji if you can hear this? Thumbs up if your sound out there is okay. All right. Oh, great. Many of you can hear. Okay, so those of you who can't, we are on it. Thank you for joining in today. And I'm just so excited. I want to talk about the homework, which was so great. But before we do, let me remind you, Workplace Education Manitoba, we're big in the 9 essential skills. That's what we focus on with people all across Manitoba in every kind of industry. So there might be people you know who are looking to get engaged in the workplace or even to upskill to try to get another position. We even have a workshop coming up in the new year called Transition to Leadership. So we do all kinds of training to help take people to a new level. We're launching another one just after Christmas called HR Toolkit. And so you don't have to only work in HR already. This is also a course to help you manage the idea of human resources in a team, even if you're not the HR director at your workplace. Anyway, enough of that. If there's 9 essential skills, if there's an essential skill training you need, I bet we do it. This is where I join you from, the Interlake West Center located in Selkirk. I loved seeing in the chat where you all were from. So hello to St. Anne and Dauphin and Stonewall, and I'm sure there's more that just aren't listed yet. Feel free to pop those in. Love our province and so glad to be able to connect with you in this way. And without having these funders, we wouldn't even have this program. Hi from Thompson, love it. So we always want to give a shout out to ERSDC and Manitoba Education and Training for the funds and the opportunity to develop curriculum. And of course, recognize that the projects are also funded through Human Resources Skills Development Canada and Entrepreneurship Training and Trade. Say that 5 times backwards. So our flagship website is wem.mb.ca. And Carrie can pop that into the chat for us, so that's something you can grab and copy and paste into another spot. And when we talk about future training, we also have a dedicated web page for that. So the courses that we're offering here in the Interlake, I almost said Winterlake. That's a great new phrase, the Winterlake. That's what it is right now. Maybe that's an old term, I just thought of it right now, but Winterlake, here we are. So weminterlake.ca is the other website you want to visit for our customized online training. So folks, give yourselves a pat on the back. You went right through that foundation of Google Suite, Google Drive, why do I care? And how do all these products work? And what the heck is the share button? You guys are ready to graduate grade 12 here today. And we are going to give you tips, tricks, and efficiencies so that as you go into these various products, these Google products as it were, you have the tools on hand to be able to do things efficiently and professionally. That sort of reminds me, we do talk about Google Docs a lot in session 2, and we will go through it a lot today with tips and tricks. And when we're thinking about Google Docs and that whole tips and tricks on the professional writing aspect, that's another workshop that Carrie and I do that we're so passionate about, that there are ways to beef up your professional writing skills. So we have that coming up in the new year also. So if you're not on our newsletter list, you need to be. Just send Carrie a private message here. She's the one represented in the chat as Workplace Education Manitoba. And you could always say to her, hey, make sure I'm on that newsletter. And she will, she'll give us that data and we'll make sure you get the big announcement, because there's another big announcement coming this week of more training. Dun, 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 dun. I'll leave you hanging. So tips and tricks, just a refresher. When we're looking at that little icon down there, that blue one that looks like there's white lines across it, that's that shortcut icon button. You may have that on your toolbar at the bottom, or you may just see that when you go into Google Drive. So remembering, when it looks like a page with lines on it, that's Google Docs. And what's Google Docs? Creates documents, things with words. So when we're in Google Docs, this is probably most Microsoft users who go to Google Docs, this is probably one of the things they love the most. There's no more save button. You don't have to worry about saving your work in Google Docs. It saves it automatically. Your computer could crash. You could accidentally close out a tab, or I always say X out a tab. You could accidentally do that, and you don't have to worry. All your work is saved. Now, maybe there's 1 or 2 nanoseconds that it lags, but there's no more saving. So you don't do file save. You don't look for that little picture of a disk. How about a thumbs up emoji if anybody actually ever used a disk, a hard disk, a floppy disk? Do you actually know what disks are? Ah, me too. Yay. I love us experienced ones who actually use disks. And so the concept with Google is that you no longer even have to hit the save, it's there for you. Now there's all kinds of formatting shortcut tips. So take a look on how the keys you use are different, whether you're on a PC or a Mac. So in the center column, these are the tools you use on a PC. On a Mac, you use their funky symbol and the codes. Now, I just wanted to leave you here for a sec, making a little note for yourself, that there's the idea of tab shortcuts, there's the idea of window shortcuts. So within the Google platform, separate from the Microsoft platform, you could Google the concept tab and window shortcuts. And then you're going to learn things that don't just affect text, but they actually manipulate windows. So one of the newer ones that I started using is Control plus N. And if N as in November. So if you use Control and N, go ahead and try it right now. You'll see what it'll do is it'll just open up a new window for you. So in this function of say being in a webinar and wanting to have a split screen going, that's a great shortcut thing to have. So recognizing that formatting shortcut tips look like this, where you're affecting text, but you could do your own search for tab and window shortcuts within Google, and you'll get another host of things. And there's a million. You're not going to remember them all, but pick one or two favorites. It's a super fun thing to use. Now, Docs also has a cool table of content function. So if you're doing a long document like a policy manual or writing a book, you could choose Insert and scroll all the way to the bottom of that pop-up window, and you'll see at the bottom the table of contents. It's super fun to use because as you put that in, it actually can link up your table of contents with the page it's on, so that if someone were to click on something within the table of contents, it could jump them right to the correct page. So if you're doing a big project like writing a thesis or a policy manual or a giant monster document at work, this is a helpful thing to think of, not just in terms of a book, but think of it in terms of departments. Maybe all departments need access to the first section, but then accounting manages the second section and someone else manages the third section. So go ahead and try implementing this in some of your docs. Now, how many by a thumbs up feel you're a really strong typist, about 80 words a minute, and by thumbs down, you think that maybe you hover around the 30, 40 words per minute spot? Show me where you think your typing ranks, really high or really low. So yeah, we're evenly split, aren't we? Hey, we make a perfect team. Some of us have strengths and some have weaknesses, and we balance each other out. I love it. Well, for those of you who haven't been practicing your typing as much as you might love, and major bunny trail, 5 to 10 minutes a day focus on practicing touch typing absolutely will change the pace of your work. So if you were to Google touch typing, there's all kinds of websites to help you do that. And having that home row memorized, you should be able to say ASDFJKL semicolon and move the right finger at the right time. So practice that. But while you're practicing, if you feel that either your typing speed isn't what you want, or you're distracted and trying to do something else like wash the dishes at the same time as writing a letter, you have this cool tool. By clicking on the tool tab, you can scroll down and choose voice typing, and you see that icon of an old-fashioned radio microphone, and that lets you just do speaking, and you can do dictation for your document. So instead of "Hey Siri," in this case, it's going to Tools and navigating down to the Click to Speak button. Love it, right? Right? And then within every single Google Doc, when you open it, you'll always have this little explore feature in the bottom right side. So I have the blue arrow pointing at where it's positioned on the page, but then you can see over to the side, it looks like a little box with a star in it. And that means explore. Now, I do encourage you to try that just for fun. When we're done, go open up a Google Doc and click on the Explore feature and see what options it'll let you do. You can easily import pictures, text, reference materials, things that are really dynamic images. You can quickly import them into your document to really take it up a notch. Of course, we always want to be mindful of copyright and use what we're allowed to use and give credit where credit's due. But if you want to be all hip like the hipsters, you need the Explore feature in your life, because those really smart students in grade 7, this is what they're using to populate a lot of their presentations and research projects. Editing is super fun. Once you're in your doc, in the top right corner, you see the little icon of a pen or a pencil. And here you get to choose how you want someone to help edit your document. So you could give a colleague editing privileges. You could give them a privilege that lets them only give suggestions or read only. I love the suggestion feature myself because nobody messes up the tabs and margins if they just give suggestions, and then you get all kinds of collaboration in there. You can also invite people just to put comments in, or you can put comments in. So some of you who sent your homework in, give yourself a pat on the back. Is there a pat on the back emoji? This is one of the tools I used on some of your homework pieces where I would add in some cases, a comment. Now I want to camp out here for a second and just invite you, if there was anything fun that you learned in your homework assignment. A good number of you did send those in, and I was so encouraged to see people trying out sheets. There were things like gardening inventory. There were several workplace examples of how you could use it for a sales report and so on. Someone even measured their time online and created a spreadsheet over it. That was amazing. So did anyone have a favorite? Pop it into the chat for me about a favorite moment with the homework. Keep adding your comments there as I roll. The fun thing is I'm thinking favorite, homework. Do those go in the same sentence? I don't even know. But you will have noticed in some of your cases, I commented right in your Google Sheets spreadsheet. In other cases, I just added a comment. So you would have gotten a notification saying, hey, someone commented on your document. And you can go in and see that. And you can also remove my comment so that your document is restored back with no comments in it. So thank you if you had time to do it. I understand if you did not. Some of you just couldn't get to it. And this is life. I totally get it. There is, of course, a whole template library in Docs. And I think this is more of a step 2 thing. I believe more in content creation at the beginning without the template, because the templates actually can be quite limiting. But if you need a quick newsletter format or something, give it a try, give it a whirl. So mentioning a few other keyboard shortcuts, and these are in your workbook today, and we're not following along in the workbook so much right now, but when you leave this session, these things are in there so that you can reference them. And remembering that there's the concept of keyboard shortcuts that are specific to Google Docs, and there's certain keyboard shortcuts that are for any word processing. So, you know, to make something bold, to hit Control+B, that's going to work in Microsoft or Google. So I always encourage people pick, one of my colleagues here at Workplace Education Manitoba, she picked, I think, her top 5 she wanted to learn, and she's got it on a Post-it note just stuck right by her computer so she can start to incorporate them in her work. If you really work in a real complex environment where linguistics is a key piece, don't you love the Open Dictionary shortcut? Control-Shift-Y, and boom, you can be doing research on the go without leaving your document. You're not going to another tab or another window. Love that. Personal dictionary. Please use this. This is the best tool. Now, Microsoft has this too, but I do want to point it out that if you click on Tools and Spelling and Grammar, you'll get an extra bonus box popping up, and there's a personal dictionary. So if you work with, let's say, Workplace Education Manitoba or Walmart or Gerdau Rolling Mills, you can put a proper noun in there, or even an acronym that your company always uses, like, say, WMIS. And you can ask your personal dictionary to recognize that as a real word. Or let's say my name, Rochelle Amy. Amy is spelled unusual, and it will always show up misspelled in a Google Doc. But I could add Rochelle Amy to a personal dictionary, and every time it shows up that way, the dictionary will not underline it in the red scribble, and I don't have to do the ignore feature. So add lots of things to your personal dictionary that are a part of your vernacular that you use in your workplace. It works so great for acronyms. It really does. And it's this simple. Once you're in it, you just pop in which word you want, and then over to the right, you say add. So some of these words like e-commerce, or the way you always format a time in your document of 10 a.m., they would show up as spelling errors, except when you put them in as this exception. How about like an applause emoji for that? That's like the best tool. My maiden name was like 12 letters long, and it only had 3 vowels in it. So we love the personal dictionary, those of us who had names this long. So putting images into Google Docs does work a little bit different than Microsoft Word, and so I need to warn you, this isn't my favorite thing about Google Docs, but there is a way to work with image options, and the thing I just want you to know is clicking on the image and getting it all highlighted with the box around it is what gives you the power to move it or to keep it as a placeholder and to be able to replace that image. So replacing image in Google Docs is different than Microsoft. Microsoft has a really good right-click feature for that, whereas Google Docs wants you to use the replace image button, and then it allows you to go other places. So you could use your Google Photos, you could go online, you could use your Google Drive, or take a picture right from your computer. So those are lots of shortcuts in Docs that I want you to use. The big shortcoming of Docs that I find is the lack of tables. So the way that Google works with tables is you make them in Google Drawings and then you import them into Google Docs, or you make them in Google Sheets and you import that image into Google Docs. I think Microsoft absolutely wins the race in tables, and I love tables. Are there any table nerds like me? Like, all my Google Docs have tables in them somewhere. I'm a total table nerd. So if that's your most favorite thing about Word, you're going to find that lacking in Docs. But I think some of the other benefits are pretty fun. So now when we talk about Google Sheets, remember it's this green icon that looks like it has a table in it that you might put data in. So that's our icon indicating Sheets. And so the green button is talking all about numbers, which sort of makes sense because green is the color of money traditionally. And so maybe that makes sense to you number brains, that green, money, numbers, Google Sheets, get it. So in their whole share settings, this is really their strongest thing in Google Sheets. Not only is it easier to use, but it has the ability to limit how people contribute to your document with the comments, with sharing it with a team. And we did talk a little bit about that share button last time. In your handout today, you'll see that there's a bunch of Google Sheets tips and tricks that you can try and do. This is one of the articles I reference in there. And this does get updated all the time. So when I first started using the whole Google Suite program a few years ago, the things it could do weren't even as great as now. And I'll give you one example. If you go into your Google email, aka Gmail, you'll notice that you're getting this notification right now at the top of your Gmail telling you, hey, as of October 31st, we're automatically deleting trash items after 30 days. Well, you used to have to know how to delete your trash so that you didn't fill up all your free storage on Google Drive and then be forced to pay fees. So people would always empty their trash. Now Google's taking care of that. After 30 days, if it's in your trash bin, they're taking care of it and it's gone. So it's not slowing down your memory. So even the tricks on what Sheets can do, I find it keeps getting more and more simplified. Is there anyone out there who struggles a little bit with saving a document and doing the save as feature? Save and save as. Save as can feel like a nightmare for people in Microsoft land. Well, one linguistic thing I want you to really latch onto is that in Google land, whether it's Docs, Sheets, Slides, whatever, there's no more save as. You're never doing that. You're always picking make a copy. And the cool thing is, even if you forget to name it, it will tell you this is a copy of something else. Doesn't make a copy make so much more sense, Carrie? Right? It's way better language. Why did it take 25 years to come up with make a copy? And it also names it as a copy instantly for you. Now with one touch, you can change that title and rename it to something else. But if you've ever made such a beloved spreadsheet and you don't dare want to mess it up, and so you make a copy of it and do all your messing up in the copy version, you can always resave that as your original. It's peace of mind for highly complex documents. I love it. Remember I said you don't have to save anymore? Well, that's right. In the save button being gone, there's also a version history button. So maybe you didn't do make a copy and you realize I've severely messed up this spreadsheet from what it was yesterday. Yesterday's version worked, today's version is garbage. You can go to yesterday's version. Now, they change on me so frequently how many versions they keep that I honestly do not know the answer of how many you get. But I know every time I look, I have several days to look back on. So if I know I finished up on Friday and then I've opened this Monday, I screwed it up on Monday, I didn't mean to change that document, I can go back and look at the version history of Fridays, click on it, and then that becomes my working, living version. Is that a lifesaver or is that a lifesaver? Love the version history, and it's super easy to find in Google Sheets. Now, the fun thing about Sheets is you don't have to give up Excel. So as soon as you get an Excel file, remember we spent time in Google Drive last week and we learned how when we click on the big plus sign in Google Drive, it asks us, do you want to upload a file? It can be any kind of file. It does not have to be a Google Sheet. So I could have my staff schedule done up in Excel because maybe my work computer is an Excel friendly computer. That's the software I have on there. I can go into my Drive, upload that Excel file. I'm saving it in my Google Drive storage cloud, and it saves it with the file extension XLSX. So it stays to be an Excel document. And if there's one place we get lost, it's that then when you go to open it, it asks you, do you want to open this in Google Sheets? The answer is yes. It will not convert your document. It won't make it a sheet. It's just using this other software to manipulate your Google or to manipulate your Excel spreadsheet. So you can basically work and borrow Google's software to still keep your Excel file an Excel file. Hello, is there like a shout out emoji? That's brilliant. So I'm sorry to tell you this, but now even your Microsoft documents that you used to love leaving at work, now you can put them on your Google Drive and take them home and work all weekend if you wanted to. I hope you don't do that. I hope you still rest. But it's just a super cool feature. And of course, you can convert it with one touch. You can change the file extension to be a sheet or like a Google Sheet or a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. Now, this is one tool I find people absolutely love. So I want you to know how to do this converting of the PDFs and working with images. Because did you ever feel like this in the past? You get a PDF and then you're frozen. You can't do anything with it. And it's even worse when you inherit it from someone else. So I was working with a gal last year who inherited this big manual from an organization, and it was only a PDF. Nobody could find the Microsoft Word version. So she was worried she'd have to retype this 40-page manual. There's hope, there's help. You don't have to do that. Instead, if you have that PDF loaded into your Google Drive, so remember we've clicked the new button, we've uploaded that file, and now we get to take the frustrating out of the PDF. Instead of it standing for PD frustrating, instead, we can open it with another document. So there are options to open it as another kind of PDF, but look at the option on the screen here. It asks, do you want to open it with Google Docs? The answer is yes, of course I do, because then I can manipulate this thing and take this 40-page manual, update it with the new logos and the new information, and then I can save it as my working document. Mind blown, right? Where's the mind blown emoji? That you can take any PDF you get And if you upload it into your Drive first, make sure it's in your Google Drive, then it gives you a chance to open it as the Google Doc. Now, disclaimer, the formatting will be completely askew. It has a really tough time with the formatting, and that's the whole thing. But when we're talking about not having to retype it all, oh man, game changer, right? So we're selecting the file we want. It's saved, you can see, within our Drive. And when we click that open, go ahead and make it a Google Doc. So just for kicks, take one of your PDFs and make it into a Google Doc, and then you'll see you can manipulate it and change it and so on. So there's a lot of theft that happens with this now, right? Because you can take a PDF from some online source, switch it into a Google Doc and throw your logo on it. And so watch your copyright issues. Don't just steal things, but use it in a way that's helpful. Now, who's like a total organization head? Are you like loving organization? Are all your towels neatly stacked in your closet, and your soaps are color coordinated, and all your can labels face a certain way? Like, okay, so you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love how Drive meets your needs. The cool thing about Drive is that it has an absolutely amazing search feature. So when you're in Google Drive, you're searching everything that your profile has ever saved or come in contact with. So even if it's not named by that thing, let's say you did research on a new office desk. Well, maybe you saved a Google Doc with all your research about the desk so that you could write a proposal to management for this desk. So you can search in Drive office desk, and it will call up your document that you created. That's going to give it priority and make that first. It'll call up every version. If you saved it as a Word doc and a PDF and a JPEG, it's going to bring all those up in your results. But it can also go past that and look through your Google Photos. Do you have an office desk in any of your photos? You've never named those photos office desk. It just recognizes images. So it will also pull up any images that have a Google desk. Slightly creepy, right? Is there a creepy emoji? And it can also search the web to do that. So the Drive feature in in Drive is really, really fun, because as you know, in Microsoft, when you're doing the search and it goes through all the drives, you basically could like write a song and write a book and paint a wall while you're waiting for it to search all the drives to find something. And I think you'll find in Google Drive that not only does it find it quickly, but it brings it from every file and every place in your whole Drive. It brings it like that. So you can go ahead and do that search. You could limit it and ask it just to search for a certain file type, but it's not limited there. That means then it takes us to how to organize all that stuff. If we have all these random files in our Drive, how do we put them in a way that are visually peaceful, right? We want visual peace. VP, there's our acronym for that. So yeah, just bring me all your files. I love color coding things, so I'll happily do that, no problem. That's next session. And the getting organized, you can assign all kinds of colors and priorities to them. So let's take a look at this particular teacher's Drive. She had chosen to not only add a color component to her files, but to also add an order. So I want to draw your attention to the left side of the image, where we see that all of the folder names are named and showing up in what? Alphabetical order. See how the phrase classroom, which starts with a C, is at the top of the list, and the phrase writers, which starts with a W, is at the bottom of the list. Google Drive will always, always, always put all of your folders in alphabetical order. When you're working with 3 folders, it doesn't matter because you can see them all on your Google Drive screen in one shot. But when you're dealing with 10, 20 different project folders, it will always put them alphabetical, and that might be too much scrolling, because what if you work for a place like me that's called Workplace Education Manitoba? You don't want the W being at the bottom of the list. So what's your workaround? Adding a number. So see how this teacher knew morning work is always the folder I go in the most. I want that always at the top of my list. So she added the number 1 to it, so it made it in numerical order. You can add an A at the beginning. Some people will add a decimal at the beginning to use another letter icon thing that goes at the beginning. But if you really want to win the race and be the most organized person in the universe, which I don't win that race, don't get me wrong, I definitely do not win that prize. But if there was a Google Drive competition, you may want to number your files, because in that sense, it's actually limitless then, right? You won't run out of alphabet, and you just have a limitless amount of numbers that you can do that with. And another advantage would be you could always put a 0 in, right? And then you can even jump ahead of another file. So after this teacher took all of her things on the left and added numbers to them to put them in an order in the way she wanted them to appear, notice she also attached the color. So in her case, I don't know her rationale on why morning work got to be purple. Was that her favorite color, her least favorite color? I don't know. Apparently purple makes you want to eat. So I don't know why anyone would attach that to their morning folder color, but we won't tell her that. And then why all the other color sequences are there. It looks like she has a nice visually pleasing array of how they are basically a color wheel. But often what people will do is they'll assign the company color to it. So Workplace Education Manitoba has the blue logo. I have the blue color on that folder because the other company I work for has a red logo. So I make that folder red. And then I'm not even reading, right? It's a quick touch. I know whether to click on the red or the blue or the yellow or whatever you're looking for in your drive. So as you organize all of your files and folders, recognize, I'll just pop back to that. Let's take, for example, the morning work category. That's just the first folder on the home page of the drive. Once you're inside morning work, you could have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday folders. You could have as many as you want, right? We know the concept of folders and subfolders, but recognizing that we want to try to get our home screen as tidy as possible, maybe having 10 or less on our home screen. In some cases, you might even have, on one of my computers, I have Rochelle Personal, Rochelle Office. And in my Office folder, from there, I have it sorted out into companies. So on my home screen, all I see are 2 folders, and it directs me where I want to go for the first click. And Google Drive's really smart. It knows where you were. So once you've saved a file into a folder a couple times or whatever, the next time you're there, it takes you automatically to the right folder and remembers where you just were. So hey, shout out Google Drive. Thanks for making it easy. And I can click and drag and move things. So easy. How many are going to go color code something? You're going to just flip a folder to another color. You got to try it. It's just a little right click and boom, you can rename, change the color. Now, I want to camp out for a few minutes on this because when we began in session 1, I asked how many of you use multiple Gmail accounts? And it was unanimous. Everybody uses multiple Gmail accounts. So in the chat for me here, please pop in for me how many Gmail addresses you're forced to use. I'll go first. My different workplaces and so on force me to use that many. It seems like a lot to manage. Tell me how many you have to manage. Is it 2? Is it 3? Some people have, 6 or 7, but lots of people are running with 2, 3, 4. I feel your pain. I'm feeling it. And of course, we all need a junk one, right? If you enter a contest and they ask you for an email address, don't ever give them your real one. Have your junk Gmail address. I'll pick on one of our participants here today, let's say Kathy. Kathy, I wouldn't give them your Kathy123@gmail.com if that's the one you're in all the time. If you're in a contest, have your Gmail account that's, Kathy loves mozzarella@gmail.com or something, and that's the one you just check once every blue moon. So that's a good way to cope so you don't get spammed. Or yesterday, actually, I was doing this online learning piece, and they offered that I could have the free handout to go with the class that I was in. So of course I want the handout, but it asks me for my email account in order to get the handout. Well, I don't want to give them my email account. I don't want to be on someone's mailing list. So I give them my fake number, you know, that extra email account. So when we're managing 2, 3, 4 of them at a time, we have to make sure we have our bearings on how to keep them separate. So we're going to take a look at 2 different opportunities on how to keep your user IDs separate. So big, huge oops is when you create a Google Doc, you forget that you're signed in with your personal account, and then you go to share the Google Doc with someone at work, and you don't even know that you're sharing it from your personal account. And then the next time you're in the workplace, you're madly trying to find that thing, and you're like, hey, Rochelle told me Google Drive is amazing. How come it's not finding this file for me? Oh, I was signed in with my personal account, not my work account. Well, that's 2 separate Google Drives. So that's the other advantage of having 3 or 4 emails, right? Is you get the 15 gigs of free data on one, you get 15 gigs over here and 15 over here. So you have to know which one you're in before you're sharing documents. So in the top right of your screen, most of you are probably joining us today on Chrome, and that's just a coincidental advantage of using AnyMeeting, as it happens to work really well in Chrome. And you notice in the top right corner of your screen, you have a little icon, and there will be a color or a picture and an initial. I have mine set as an R for Rochelle, so I know that I'm signed in with that particular identity, and I make that look different when I'm signed in with different accounts. Now this is my absolute favorite. Do you get the point? This is my total favorite. This is my number 1. This is El Jefe. This is the numero uno. This is my favorite way to keep accounts separate. I set up a Chrome shortcut on my desktop that's attached to one of those Gmail identities. So in this image, you can see I have 3 different Google accounts, all set up as a shortcut on my desktop. This is 100% of the time an easier way to operate. You will not have crossover into the wrong drive if you do it this way. And there is mention in your handout on how to set up a desktop shortcut specific to a username. It involves those little 3 dots on the side, which look very unsuspecting. And in there, you can click on the settings and then the Chrome name and picture, and that's how you can manipulate making that R a picture of a watermelon or whatever, and setting it up as a shortcut. But the shortcut thing is almost hidden. After you pick your image of what you want to represent, it's way at the bottom that it says create a desktop shortcut user. So this will be one of your most valuable friends, because maybe you have Kathy likes mozzarella at gmail.com, and maybe you love Kathy as a super smart professional at gmail.com. Keep those as 2 separate desktop shortcuts. Kathy, can you give me an emoji that you don't mind I'm picking on you? I don't even know if you like mozzarella, quite frankly, but you get the idea, right? The other thing you can do is you can assign a theme to your identity, and I encourage you to do this. The main theme you'll always get is that white Gmail look, and I love that look, but I try to only use that for my one primary Gmail account. So I know when I'm in that clean white page, I know I'm in the right one. Then when I'm in my personal one or Gmail number 3, I attach a picture or a background theme to it so that I know when I log in, as soon as I see a different color, oh, I'm not in the right Gmail account here, or ooh, I am in the right one, because obviously I want to email my family different things that I want to email my coworkers. So I want to know which account I'm in at a glance. So this is an example of what a theme could look like. You know, it can change your whole background. It can be really busy if you want. And if you're working with, you know, some highly confidential stuff, some high credential items, this is the concept you probably want to go with, so that you basically have a digital sign coming out and bonking you in the head saying, look at me, this is the one you're in. Or you can choose any manner of backgrounds like this one. So if I were to flip back and forth between two different windows, I always know at a glance which Gmail I'm in, and thus which drive I'll be accessing and sharing documents from. So if you find you can't find something in Google Drive, maybe flip to your other account and find out, did I save it there? There's a way to move it, and just one little quick tip about that is, let's say my Kathy Loves Mozzarella accidentally created a Google Doc and saved it on my drive that way, and I realized Kathy is a great professional, is the account that should own it. Well, how do I move it over into that other drive? From being within the document in the first one, I change who the owner is. I share the document with Kathy the professional, and then I change the owner. And so in that way, I give access to Kathy the professional to own that document. So making sure you change who the owner is valuable if you're trying to transition some things from one account to another. So I want to show you another tip on how to manage multiple identities, and it's sort of a fast way, especially if you're on a shared computer. And before I get to that though, I have Carrie jumping up and down in the background, just so super excited to be able to do a survey with you. So I'm going to disappear, and I invite Carrie to walk us through what she would like us to do next.
Okay, team. So you guys, those of you that have been around, know that we love hearing from you. And actually, it's part of how we, like, spoiler alert, we get our funding, right? So we report on how amazing Rochelle is and how much you guys have learned. And so in order for us to do that, we just have a quick little survey here for you. And we thought it would be really fun to do it as a Google Doc. So if you could go ahead and click on that link, there's just a few short questions. It won't take long, but we really appreciate that. And so we're going to take a few moments just to do that right now. If you do have any other questions, of course, please ask away. We love that type of engagement. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment while you go ahead and do that. I'll try to be quiet. A lot of colors and lots to consider today, isn't there? So I'm essentially holding this webinar hostage at the moment. So the faster you guys can hop in and do these, I'll give you Rochelle back. But thanks for the thumbs up, indicating that you have completed. We love it. Plus, it helps us to know where we're headed. So thank you so much for those of you that have completed that. Like I said, it's an important part of our work. It's probably the yuckiest part of our work, but it also really helps us to know where else we can take this training, and if there's any modifications we need to make and that sort of thing. So thank you again, everybody, for doing that.
And we're super close, on one more to finish up.
Okay, one more. Yay. And that was the cool thing. Now this is something neat that, you guys could use in your workplaces too for quick feedback. Or I know Rochelle's gone in, I'm coming to this party, a session late, but this was a really simple, easy way for us to be able to get some quick information from you. So thank you, everybody, for.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have Annie, I'll take over. Thank you. I have Annie, Kathy, Stacy, Darlene, Terry, Dana, and Lucy, and there's one outstanding. And so I just want to give you a heads up that to save yourself a follow-up email, maybe click on that and do that. Because one thing that I know, and it's not us, is there's someone in the backgrounds who, if you don't do the survey, they'll phone you and follow up. So I'm just saving you that pain, okay?
Yeah. And Terry asked, I can grab that for you right now, Terry. Just give me 1 second and I'll pop the.
Awesome. Woohoo! The last one just came in. Oh, Carrie, please, when you get a chance, put 10,000 million points in the chat. I don't know how to type that, but these people get incredible points. So thank you. So
we give them Google points, get it?
GooglePoints.com, points.google.com. Let's look it up. So one of the other cool ways to manage this is, let's say you haven't assigned all those backgrounds and themes to make your different Google identities look different. One easy to use way on especially a shared computer, maybe you and your spouse share a computer, or you and your middle schooler share a computer or whatever. When you click on the 3 dots over in the corner, you get this option to open either a new tab, a new window, or a new incognito window. And incognito is another word for being in disguise, basically, right? So it ends up looking like this. And Google's really kind to us. It tells us, hey, I'm flipping you into an incognito window. And that means your whole screen is going to look gray and dark and different. So you know you're not in your normal place. Now, when you're in this mode, it doesn't know who you are now, right? So the options are a little bit different. You'd have to go to Gmail and re-sign in. This is not the dark web. Fear not. I'm not sending you to a crazy, ugly place. This is a way that supposedly your cookies aren't tracked, okay? So it does say you can browse privately. Now, let's say I want to buy Carrie a new car as a gift. Wouldn't that make me the most amazing coworker? Carrie, I'm not going to. But let's say I'm going to buy her a bright orange car to match her earrings, to match our Google Suite presentation. I may want to do research on the orange car. And so I would go incognito and research how to buy an orange car for Carrie, all right here. And that way, when she flips on her this computer that we share, that browsing history of that orange Tesla that I was going to get her, she won't be able to see it because that browsing history won't be saved. Now, I do want to give you a huge disclaimer. I know actually someone who's gotten themselves into some web trouble because they thought incognito meant nobody can ever see what I'm doing. There's always a server. There's always a server. So your company would know if you're looking for another job while you're at work. And Google's server would know if you're trying to do something illegal or illicit. They would know. There's always a server. Someone can always see. So when we're talking about the incognito window, it doesn't actually mean that your browsing history is undetectable. It means you're in a window that your current computer's cookie and cache won't remember your keystrokes. So if you're sharing a computer, the other person won't have access to what you looked up. So this is the place where you could go to sign in with Gmail, and then you'll see that it stays in this dark incognito window. So maybe I'm at work and my work Gmail account is the one I keep running all the time on my computer. That's how I'm managing everything. But I just want to go quickly check my own Google email at lunch or whatever. Well, I might open it in an incognito window and look up my Gmail there so that I'm not accidentally saving the documents to the wrong drive. I'm keeping it in my personal Google Drive or the other. So not everything we do is nefarious, unkind, and illegal, right? Sometimes we're doing this because maybe we're researching something Maybe you know that the company is going to go through a big transition. Like we had one learner share yesterday, they changed from Cube Farm to Open Concept. And so maybe you need to go do that research on how much square footage can an employee live by and all of that. That's a method to use so that it attaches to a different Gmail identity. And then when you're in your Google search, it won't bring up all those cookies and remember all those things that you don't want your coworkers to know. So I would suggest first, the preference is always to have those Chrome shortcuts on your desktop. That's always the easiest. And another double check is looking up in your top right corner. You'll always have two places where you see a user. So you can have up beside your address bar, you can have your primary Google account that you're signed in with, but you can open another tab and sign in with another account. That's usually where people get lost, is signing in with their Google identity in an additional tab. That messes you up. Stay away from the tab thing unless you're a total pro, and instead use Incognito or the Chrome shortcut on the desktop. Now, I want to throw out these challenges to you before we go. Do you just have email time? Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you have a time that when I'm in the office, this is the time slot I always check my email? This is our challenge in modern life. This is one of our chief challenges. And I go through eras. Email is sort of like a diet. I go through eras when I'm really, really good at it and really fall off the wagon. And so if you're keen like Lucy, do your thing where you schedule out, hey, from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, that's when I do email. And I do not check email again until 1 p.m. And from 1 to 3:30, that's when I'm on again. And if you can give yourself these blocks when you know you're just looking for email, it's a great way to project manage your way forward and not get lost in the swamp of email. So that would also apply with flipping between those multiple accounts, right? It's that I know I'm always going to check this one account or this one place at the start of my day. And the other one I save for another time, and it's just another way to stay organized and on top of the volume of learning. Good luck with your coworkers and getting them to not expect you to give instant email responses. Good luck with that. Not Carrie, don't get me wrong. I don't have that problem here at all. I actually just signed up for a volunteer gig and the emails are flying in at rapid speed. And I'm like, good golly, these people think email is texting. The other question is, do you have time set apart in your work day for learning? You know, do you have that? Well, maybe not. You know, I know a lot of the stuff I have to do, there's no margin for learning. So this is the kind of thing I would encourage you to roll into that email time. Give yourself that time budget that, you know, let's say you're going to always do email from 8:30 to 9. Well, maybe 9 to 9:15 is always trying something new on the computer, referring back to these handouts and picking one of the things to try. If you just set up your Chrome desktop shortcut this week, that would be a win. If you just created one Google spreadsheet about a topic related to your workplace and saved it in your drive, that would be a win. So I know I work with one adult professional where he's set aside, he has 5 minutes every day that he practices his typing. First thing in the morning, before he opens his email, his reward is when he's done his 5 minutes of typing, he can open his email, and we're all motivated to open email, right? So those are just fun tips, because the amount of information on what we could know in Google, it's impossible to know. You know, I said to my spouse yesterday, I said, it's so funny, like Google is like having a little bottle of water with what we know, but really it's an ocean of learning. So if we just each week fill up one bottle at a time, We just move ourselves further down the field. So don't be shy. Support.google.com has so many videos, so many instruction sheets, and so on. And especially as they continually adapt and change their methods, you're going to find your handouts from this session are probably changed already in 2021 because they just changed that quickly. And putting things into YouTube, I have a couple favorite YouTubers where I go for tech support because I love how they explain it. They speak my language. So finding a couple of those that you can grab onto. I'll let Carrie finish up, and I warmly thank you for joining me. I don't live and breathe technology, so I am the living proof that if I could learn this, all of us can do this.
See, I do think that you live and breathe technology.
No.
And I think, we have the opportunity to learn from the people around us, from our coworkers, from the younger generation, from everyone, or from my aunt who's 95 and loves technology. So you might be wondering why this cute image of a phone is here. Well, let me tell you, well, not us, but our people will be calling you in a couple of months to see the impact of this amazing session. So as you're going through the day-to-day, be mindful of how much you're actually using from the stuff that Rochelle has taught us over these past 3 sessions. We're so thankful for her. She says she's not into the technology, but clearly she's got a leg up on a lot of us anyway. And one last little thought. Now, you've enjoyed this session. There are lots of other ways to interact with us. Some of you know this through our tidbits. We also provide career assessments. We do customized on-site training. Some of that's being done in workplaces currently. I'm in a couple of places in person, which is a really different world after not being with the people for a while. But we also do online customized training for your team. So that's another really great way to interact with us and receive training at no cost, funded training. Of course, our classroom is open. We have that located just across from the library in Selkirk. You'll see a big giant Red River sign and a little tiny white sign. We're the little tiny white sign. So we get to hang out with the Red River friends. And then, of course, our workshops, online workshops. We're going to have a ton coming up this winter as well, starting in January. And of course, we still have a few months to go before we get there. And you can feel free to join us on those at weminterlake.ca is where you'll find that listing and the opportunity to register and be a part of this wonderful community. I honestly and sincerely say this from the very bottom of my heart, that when we create a sharing community like this, magical things can happen as we learn from one another. So again, big fat thank you to Rochelle for sharing your amazing talents. Go forth and be awesome, everyone. We're so thankful you're here.